Christine Brown and Robyn Brown have not spoken face-to-face in years, but the silence between them is secretly destroying the entire Brown family story. And what we uncovered changes everything. So hit subscribe right now, because this deep dive is about to expose the emotional truth sister wives never fully showed on camera. Christine Brown and Robyn Brown have not stood in the same room together for years. And yet, somehow, every single season of Sister Wives still feels emotionally centered around the silence between them. And that silence has become louder than any argument the family has ever shown on camera. Because the strangest part of this entire story is not the separation itself. It is the fact that both women continue shaping each other's narratives without directly interacting. And once viewers notice that pattern, it becomes impossible to ignore. Every emotional confessional, every careful statement, every subtle reaction carries the shadow of the other woman, even when no names are spoken out loud. And that hidden emotional connection is exactly why audiences remain obsessed with this fractured relationship. Because deep down, people sense that the true, unfinished story of Sister Wives was never only about Kody Brown or plural marriage. It was about two women who entered the same family believing they could build a shared life together and slowly discovered that they were emotionally living inside completely different realities. And what makes this even more fascinating is that neither woman appears capable of fully moving beyond what the other represents. Christine left the marriage, moved to Utah, rebuilt her identity, found love again with David Woolley, launched new projects, embraced independence, and transformed herself into the emotional symbol of freedom for a massive part of the audience. While Robyn remained beside Kody in Flagstaff, continued defending the family structure, and presented herself as someone still committed to preserving stability inside the chaos. And those two completely opposite paths created a powerful emotional contrast that now fuels almost every conversation surrounding the franchise. Because Christine represents the possibility of escape, while Robyn represents the choice to remain. And neither role carries meaning without the existence of the other woman standing somewhere in the emotional background of it all. Every time Christine talks about freedom, viewers remember the environment she escaped. And every time Robyn talks about commitment, viewers remember
Christine has repeatedly hinted at feeling emotionally betrayed by Robyn. And that word betrayal changes everything. Because betrayal only exists when trust once mattered deeply. People do not describe strangers as betrayals. They describe people they once emotionally relied on that way. And when Christine speaks about feeling pushed aside, ignored, or emotionally disconnected, viewers immediately respond because her emotions come with specifics. She describes moments, feelings, behaviors, memories, and that specificity creates emotional credibility for the audience. People understand exactly where to place their empathy because the pain feels concrete. Meanwhile, Robyn often approaches the same emotional territory from a completely different angle. She tends to focus on intentions, family dreams, circumstances, misunderstandings, and broader ideas about preserving relationships, rather than directly naming individual moments of conflict. And while her emotions clearly appear genuine, many viewers struggle to emotionally anchor themselves to them, because abstract grief can feel harder to connect with than detailed personal hurt. And this difference in emotional communication became one of the defining fractures inside the fandom itself, because audiences unconsciously align with the emotional language they understand best. Some viewers deeply connect with Christine, identifying betrayal and reclaiming herself, while others connect with Robyn, trying to preserve meaning inside a collapsing family structure. And the deeper this divide grows, the more obvious it becomes that the audience is not only reacting to television drama, they are projecting their own experiences with loyalty, rejection, communication, and emotional survival onto these women. Which explains why online discussions surrounding Christine and Robyn become so emotionally intense. Because people are not simply debating reality stars, they are defending entire ways of understanding relationships. And underneath all of this emotional tension sits the most devastating irony of the entire franchise. Sister Wives originally presented itself as a story about female support, sisterhood, shared purpose, and emotional unity. The core
promise of the show was not simply that one man had multiple wives. It was that these women had built a chosen family together, a system where emotional connection between the wives was just as important as the marriages themselves. But over time, viewers slowly realized that the emotional center holding that promise together never fully stabilized, especially between Christine and Robyn. And
divided into separate emotional worlds, Christine remained close with Janelle and her children, while Robyn and Kody continued operating almost like an isolated household on the other side of an invisible line. And once viewers saw that emotional geography clearly, the entire premise of the series changed. Because the show was no longer documenting one functioning plural family, it was documenting the emotional aftermath of a system falling apart. And people became fascinated, not only by the collapse itself, but by what each person revealed about themselves afterward. Christine revealed what happens when someone chooses freedom after years of emotional dissatisfaction. Robyn revealed what happens when someone tries to preserve stability after watching a family structure crumble around her. And neither response erased the emotional significance of the other woman, which is exactly why the silence between them still feels so emotionally loaded years later. Every indirect statement, every careful interview, every emotional reaction carries invisible history behind it. And viewers can sense that history, even when the women themselves avoid fully naming it, because human beings instinctively recognize unresolved emotional energy, especially inside relationships that once mattered deeply. And perhaps the most haunting part of all this is that both women are probably telling the truth from their own perspective. Christine genuinely experienced emotional loneliness, disappointment, and betrayal, while Robyn genuinely experienced fear, instability, and the pressure of trying to maintain something she believed in. And neither woman appears emotionally disconnected from her own reality. But the tragedy is that their truths cannot comfortably coexist without exposing painful contradictions. And because they never fully confront those contradictions together, the audience remains trapped inside the emotional gap between them, endlessly analyzing, searching for clarity that may never arrive. And that unresolved emotional space has now become more compelling than many active relationships still appearing on the show. Because viewers are no longer simply watching family drama. They are watching the psychological aftermath of emotional rupture stretched across years of silence, distance, and carefully managed public storytelling. And the longer the women remain apart, the more frozen their perceptions of each other become, because they are no longer interacting with the current version of one another. They are interacting with... What makes the emotional divide between Christine Brown and Robyn Brown even more gripping is that the show itself seems unable to escape orbiting around their unfinished story, because every major family conversation somehow circles back to the invisible fracture between them, even when the episodes pretend to focus on something else. Whether the topic is finances, holidays, property, family gatherings, or emotional healing, the unresolved tension between these two women quietly hangs over every scene, like a shadow nobody directly acknowledges, and viewers can feel that pressure building underneath the surface. Because the family may have physically separated, but emotionally, the story still keeps returning to the same central question. What actually happened between Christine and Robyn that created a wound so deep neither woman has truly moved past it? And the more seasons unfold without a direct confrontation, the more emotionally powerful the silence becomes. Because audiences instinctively understand that the most important conversations are often the ones people avoid having. And perhaps that is why even the smallest indirect comments suddenly explode online. Whenever Christine references feeling unseen or Robyn references sacrifice, viewers immediately begin decoding every word, searching for hidden meaning. Because after years of emotional distance, the audience no longer hears these women as individuals speaking in isolation. They hear them as opposite sides of the same unfinished emotional argument. And that argument has slowly transformed into the real heart of Sister Wives, while everything else around it shifts and changes. Because Kody may still dominate scenes with loud reactions, frustration, and defensiveness,
But the emotional gravity pulling viewers back season after season exists somewhere much quieter inside the unresolved silence between two women who once believed they could become family, and instead became emotional symbols of opposite choices, opposite survival strategies, and opposite interpretations of the same shared life. And perhaps the most devastating part of this entire situation is that there may never be one clean villain or one completely innocent victim, because reality rarely works that way, especially inside complicated family systems where emotional needs, expectations, and insecurities collide over many years. Christine clearly experienced emotional pain, loneliness, disappointment, and the feeling that her role inside the family had fundamentally changed after Robyn entered the picture. Well,
Past viewers slowly realized that the emotional foundation required to sustain that dream never fully stabilized, especially between the women, whose relationship may have mattered most emotionally. Christine had been part of the family for years before Robyn arrived, and Robyn's entrance changed the emotional balance of the household in ways nobody fully understood at the time. And whether intentional or not, that shift created emotional consequences that rippled through the family for years afterward. Because changes inside family systems rarely affect only one relationship. They alter emotional dynamics everywhere. Attention shifts, insecurities grow, alliances change, and unresolved feelings quietly accumulate beneath daily life, until eventually the emotional pressure becomes impossible to ignore. And maybe that is exactly what audiences spent years witnessing without fully realizing it at first. Not simply dramatic arguments, but the slow emotional erosion of a system struggling to maintain connection under the weight of unresolved tension. And what makes this even more emotionally compelling is that the cameras captured enough fragments for viewers to sense the truth without ever fully revealing it. Audiences saw the awkward conversations, the tears, the indirect comments, the emotional distance, and the carefully controlled attempts at family unity. But the full emotional reality always seemed to exist somewhere just outside the frame, which only intensified viewer obsession. Because people naturally become more emotionally invested in mysteries that feel emotionally authentic. And the Christine and Robyn dynamic feels deeply authentic, precisely because it remains unresolved. If the show had delivered one explosive confrontation followed by clear closure years ago, the emotional fascination might have faded. Instead, the audience remains suspended inside uncertainty, wondering whether the final conversation will ever happen, wondering whether either woman truly wants it to happen, and wondering whether reconciliation is even emotionally possible after so much distance, time, and accumulated pain. Because perhaps the saddest truth underneath all of this is that both women may now be interacting more with emotional memories than with each other directly. Christine speaks about a version of Robyn shaped by years of hurt, disappointment, and emotional disconnection, while Robyn likely speaks about a version of Christine shaped by years of conflict, misunderstanding, and